Okay, so you may remember this particular picture, but if not, this was the picture that circulated around as being the picture of the exploded train. And as always, you know, there's some news agencies that will put it out there without the pixelation. I've got the picture with the pixelation for the sake of YouTube, but the point is that sometimes they show it, sometimes they don't, and it's strange really. And this is why everything is backwards with this stuff, because in one hand they're not going to take pictures of dead bodies and put them in newspapers and in video if it was real, whereas when it comes to getting the effect of people that have been hurt across, then they're more than happy to use these things. And like I say, some news agencies will do the pixelation and some won't. But given how many events we've covered so far, we have to always scrutinise everything that is put out there. So this particular picture, who took it? Because of course you would assume that when this happens they'd evacuate the place. So how has somebody managed to take this particular picture if they were being evacuated at the time? And it isn't just that. I mean, when you dig into these things, you'll notice that the police, you know, they tweet things to say, you know, if anybody has any footage or any evidence to come to them first. But this gets taken and it's circulated amongst the press, and nobody takes it down as being inconsiderate to dead people. It's just the news have got it, it's put out there, and that's that. Nobody ever questions it. So anyway, back to the question of who actually took this. Well, this was a Spanish fella called Pep Villa, and as you can see, he's the one who tweeted it out. He used the hashtags to make sure people can find it, and it says via at Lesor. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a newspaper, so either he is freelance or he works for that newspaper. But the point is that he is a journalist. Now, how many events have we covered so far where journalists actually play a key role in this? Not just going down to the scene and taking iconic pictures, but in fact being at the scene in order to take the picture. That's the part they play, and certainly Ketavan should be proof and testament to that, especially going forward with any further events we talk about. And the thing is, it doesn't just end there either. Two people went on television here in the UK. I don't know if they did interviews elsewhere, but they ended up doing this particular interview. And what we'll look at here is one of the guys laughing before going on telly. He doesn't realise they're filming. I don't know if he thinks that the shot is actually cropped just on the news reporter, but it's actually panned so that you get to see them both. So here, take a look.
The King of Belgium. Well, I'm joined now by Dominique Austin, a journalist with Euractiv, who's evacuated from the metro as Brussels came under attack this morning, and Giulia Paravicini, the correspondent for Politico, and also an eyewitness to the attack at the Zaventem airport. Thanks for coming, both of you. Let me start with you, Giulia. So, what did you see this morning when you arrived on the scene?
Now, to be fair, the news reporter actually says and announces them as being journalists and says who they actually work for, which under normal circumstances wouldn't be that big a deal, but we are able to look at this in sort of a proper timeline, and we were able to see patterns with this stuff. So for us, it's not that it's just a person that happens to be there, it's a red flag if anything. So whilst that particular reporter isn't exactly misleading us, how about in cases where they just simply say that there is an eyewitness to these things and then do an interview with them, but secretly they are in fact a journalist, like this guy.
What did you see there at the subway station? What can you tell us about the situation?
I came after the explosion or explosions and saw a police cordon. Malbec is very close, the station is very close to the European institutions. So a few hundred metres down the road, there's one long road that has the European Commission and European Council. So this was just down from that. There are ambulances there, fire, police. They basically cordoned off the area, so we were just behind that.
Mr. Medic, you have been dealing with this. I presume you live in Brussels. Brussels has been dealing with this since the Paris attacks. What is it like to be in a city this morning that is on lockdown?
So whilst you've got the mockery element because of his surname Medic, you can see that he does in fact work for the media. It says as well that he founded happeningo.com, a campaign agency that creates live happenings online for organisations, movements and events. So from looking from his websites, it's not as if that he's directly linked with any news organisation like the previous two. He is working for the media, so ultimately you've got that sort of link there. He's going to have contacts, he's going to know people who know people as such, and if he is trying to get a particular website off the ground, a bit like the basketball player, he's a similar case. You know, his now job is in the media, so you can imagine that if he wanted to get off the ground with it or do somebody a favour in order to get a favour himself, you participate in these things, so you just don't know what the reward is for playing your part. So really, to bring this to a conclusion, you've got journalists all over the underground, journalists in the airport, Westminster had journalists all over it, Nice has a journalist who took all the pictures, you've got journalists seemingly everywhere. The Stockholm event, a woman called Linda Flood, she was an eyewitness who was a journalist. The theme is there every single time, and the thing is that I believe that they use journalists because ultimately they're trying to get a boost in their career, and they get their name out there, which is why you can track them down on Twitter. You'd think that, well, if they want to try and avoid being caught, they wouldn't use their name, but ultimately they want credit for what they're doing, so that's why you can track these people down and go, there you go, see, it says that they're a journalist and it tells you who they're affiliated with. And then hopefully, unlike Ketavan, they should stick to the script a bit better than your average crisis actor, unless they get caught laughing beforehand.